Stop looking at your thermometer. The number you see doesn't matter. If you are staring at that dropping temperature and thinking, I need to fight the cold, you have already lost the battle. You are fighting a phantom, a ghost. Here is the brutal truth that most preppers, even the experienced ones, fail to grasp. Cold does not exist. It is a fiction. In the universe of physics, there is only heat, and the lack of it. Cold is simply what happens when the universe successfully steals the energy from your body. Picture this. You are sitting in your high-tech bunker, wrapped in $1,000 of the finest goose-down insulation. You feel safe, but you are shivering. Why? Because you bought the gear, but you didn't understand the physics. Your body is a biological furnace, a heat engine generating precious joules of energy. And right now, 3 invisible assassins are in the room with you. They don't care about your brand name gear. They only want one thing: to equalize the universe by draining your heat until you are the same temperature as the concrete slab you re-dying on. To survive, you don't need more stuff. You need to understand thermodynamics. You need to identify these 3 assassins: the vampire, the thief, and the ghost, and build a fortress of physics to keep them out. Let's meet the first killer. I call him the vampire. In physics, this is conduction. The vampire creates a direct bridge between you and the environment. It requires physical contact to feed. Imagine you are forced to sleep on a cold concrete floor in your basement during a blackout. That concrete is not just hard, it is a heat sink. It is a massive, dense battery of emptiness. Because the concrete has a practically infinite mass compared to your body, it wins every time. When you lie down, you are essentially plugging your body into the earth. The second your skin touches that surface, the heat transfer begins. It's relentless. You can almost feel the red arrows of thermal energy flowing out of your core and disappearing into the gray, lifeless stone. You cannot warm the floor. The earth will absorb every calorie you burn and still demand more. You will run out of fuel long before the floor runs out of appetite. The solution: break the bridge. You cannot fight the vampire. You must starve him. You have to create a thermal break. This is the most critical concept in static survival. Your insulation gear, that expensive sleeping bag, is useless if it is compressed. When you lie on down feathers, you crush the air pockets that trap heat. You are destroying your own shield. So, what works? You need rigid structure, closed cell foam. A simple $20 yoga mat or camping pad is worth more than a gold bar in this scenario. It traps millions of microscopic air bubbles that cannot be crushed. Cardboard. Don't laugh. Corrugated cardboard is an engineering marvel of insulation. It's essentially a sandwich of air. Flattened boxes, stacked 3 or 4 layers deep, create a formidable barrier against conductive heat loss. Debris. If you are outdoors or completely without gear, use nature. Dry leaves, pine boughs, or straw. But here is the key. You need loft. You need at least 6 to 8 inches of compressed debris to equal the protection of a modern foam pad. The goal is simple: get off the heat sink, sever the connection. If you are touching the cold, you are feeding the vampire. If conduction is a vampire, convection is a thief. It is sneaky. It uses the very air you breathe as a weapon against you. You are in your living room. The power is out. You light a candle, maybe a small propane heater. You feel a brief moment of warmth, but the room stays freezing. Why? Because air is fluid. It moves. As your little heater warms a pocket of air, physics dictates that the air becomes less dense and rises. It floats up to the vaulted ceiling of your house, pulling where you can't use it. Meanwhile, that movement creates a vacuum at the floor level. Cold, dense air is sucked in through every microscopic crack in your windows, under your doors, and through your electrical outlets to replace the rising warm air. This is the stack effect. It creates an invisible wind tunnel in your own home. This moving air is the thief. It strips away the boundary layer, that thin, warm envelope of air that sits right next to your skin. This is why you feel wind chill even indoors. The air is constantly scrubbing your heat away and carrying it to the ceiling. Heating a large, unsealed American home during a grid-down scenario is a fool's errand. It is like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. You are pouring calories into a system that is designed to lose them. The solution: the Russian doll method. Stop trying to heat the house. Stop trying to heat the room. You need to shrink your world. We use the Russian doll method or microclimate strategy. 1. The outer shell. Your house protects you from the wind and rain. That's its only job now. 2. The middle shell. Pick the smallest room with the fewest windows. Ideally, a south-facing room to catch passive solar gain during the day. 3. The inner shell. This is the game changer. Set up a tent inside that room. If you don't have a tent, build a fort. Use blankets over a dining table. Use a mattress propped against a wall. Why does this work? Volume. Instead of trying to heat 2,000 cubic feet of living room air, you are now only heating 60 cubic feet of tent air. Your own body heat. About 100 watts of energy is suddenly enough to raise the temperature inside that tent by 10, 15, maybe 20 degrees. You have created a controllable micro-environment inside a hostile macro-environment. You have stopped the thief by stopping the airflow. Now that you have stopped the vampire by insulating yourself from the ground, and you have trapped the thief by building a microclimate inside your home, you must face the final and most elusive assassin, the ghost. In the laws of thermodynamics, this is radiation. It is the silent killer that most people never see coming until it is too late. Right now, at this very second, your body is broadcasting heat in all directions. You are like a radio tower, but instead of music, you are transmitting invisible infrared waves of pure energy out into the void. If you are sitting in a cold room, even if the air is still, even if you are not touching the floor, you are bleeding energy. Your heat is radiating across the room to the cold walls, the cold windows, and the cold furniture. The universe is trying to reach equilibrium, and it is using your body heat to warm up your drywall. You will never win that exchange. To defeat the ghost, you must use reflection. This is why emergency blankets are made of mylar. They are not insulation, they are mirrors for heat. But here is the mistake everyone makes. They wrap themselves in mylar like a baked potato. This is wrong. When mylar touches your skin, it conducts cold. Instead, you need to line the inside of your Russian doll shelter with reflective material. Tape emergency blankets to the walls of your tent or your fort. By doing this, you turn your microenvironment into a thermal feedback loop. The heat that leaves your body hits the wall and bounces right back to you. You are no longer heating the universe, you are recycling your own survival energy. While you are fighting to keep heat in, your house is fighting a different, more explosive battle, the physics of expansion. This is the bomb ticking inside your walls. We need to talk about the water in your pipes. You have been taught that insulation prevents freezing. That is a dangerous lie. Insulation only delays freezing. It buys you time, not safety. Imagine the water molecules inside your copper pipes. Water is an anomaly of physics. When most liquids freeze, their molecules pack tighter together, taking up less space. But water is different. As it cools to 0 degrees Celsius, its molecules do something violent. They arrange themselves into a rigid, open lattice crystal structure. They don't get closer, they push apart. Water expands by about 9% with incredible, unstoppable hydraulic force. This phase change acts like a slow-motion bomb. It does not matter how thick your fiberglass insulation is. Once that water hits the freezing point, the expansion begins. The pressure builds up to thousands of pounds per square inch. No copper, no steel, no PVC plastic can withstand that force. The pipe will not just crack, it will burst catastrophically. And here is the cruel twist. It usually bursts not where the ice blockage is, but downstream, where the pressure has nowhere else to go. When the thaw comes, you won't just be cold, you will be flooded. The only way to disarm this bomb is to remove the fuel. You must drain the system, Shut off the main valve. Open every tap in the house. Flush the toilets. Get the working fluid out. No water, no expansion, no bomb. It is simple physics. Now, let's move to the most dangerous calculation you will ever make, the ventilation equation. In a grid-down scenario, many of you will turn to propane heaters, kerosene stoves, or wood burning. You will feel the urge to seal your room tight, to tape up every crack to trap that precious heat. If you do this without doing the math, you are digging your own grave. This creates a deadly chemistry problem. The ideal reaction for burning propane is simple. Fuel plus oxygen equals heat, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. But notice the key ingredient, oxygen. Your heater is consuming the very air you need to breathe. As you seal the room, the oxygen levels drop. The fire becomes starved. And when a fire is starved of oxygen, the chemistry changes instantly. It stops producing harmless carbon dioxide and starts producing carbon monoxide CO. This is the silent assassin. It is odorless, colorless, and tasteless. It binds to your red blood cells 200 times faster than oxygen. You won't choke, you won't cough, you will simply feel tired. You will lie down to take a nap, and you will never wake up. This is not a risk you can guess at. You need a formula. Here is the rule of thumb that physics dictates for survival heating. For every 1000 BTS of heat your device puts out, you need approximately 1 square inch of permanent, unobstructed ventilation opening. If you are running a 9000 BTU buddy heater, you don't just need a crack in the window. You need at least 9 square inches of fresh air intake, and ideally, another opening high up to let the exhaust escape. You must create a flow. Yes, you will lose some heat. That is the trade-off. You are trading a few degrees of temperature for the ability to wake up in the morning. Never trust your senses. Trust the math. And always have a battery-operated carbon monoxide detector. It is the only sense you have that can detect this ghost. But even with ventilation, you face a frustration. The second you turn off the heater to save fuel, the room freezes instantly. Why? Because you are trying to heat the wrong thing. You are heating the air. In thermodynamics, air has a terrible specific heat capacity. It holds almost no energy. Air molecules are spread far apart. They are terrible at storing heat. You are pouring fuel into a sieve. To win, you must stop heating the air and start heating a thermal battery. You need mass, dense, heavy materials. Think of a large stone, a stack of bricks, a cast iron skillet, or best of all, water. Water has one of the highest specific heat capacities of any common material. It loves to absorb heat. Here is the strategy. Place your heater next to a large container of water or a stack of bricks. Let the energy soak into that dense mass. You are charging the battery. When you turn off the heater to sleep, the air will cool down in minutes, but your thermal battery is just getting started. It will slowly radiate that stored heat back into the room for hours, stabilizing the temperature and keeping the vampire at bay. The real equation for winter survival is not about how much gear you buy. It is this: insulation to slow heat loss, plus thermal mass to store energy, minus the air flow you absolutely must have for safety. That is what equals survival. Survival isn't luck. It isn't magic. It is physics. The laws of thermodynamics are brutally fair. They apply to everyone equally. Respect them, and you will endure. Ignore them, and they will break you. So look at your prep right now. Are you buying gear to fight a phantom cold? Or are you building a system to manage heat? The choice is yours. We have identified the assassins. We have learned the equations. Now, it is time to build your arsenal. I am not talking about buying a knife or a tactical flashlight. I am talking about the tools that specifically defeat conduction, convection, and radiation. Here at Primal Methods, we believe that knowledge wastes nothing, but the right gear leverages physics to keep you alive. Here is your physics-based loadout. First, you need a conduction blocker. Stop obsessing over the temperature rating of your sleeping bag for a moment. If you are lying on the ground, that rating is irrelevant. You need closed cell foam. It is cheap, it is durable, and it is 98% trapped air. Go to the hardware store and buy rigid insulation boards if you have to. If you are scavenging, look for cardboard, piles of newspapers, or even old cushions. Remember the rule, compressibility kills. You need a layer that your body weight cannot crush. That is your shield against the vampire. Second, you need a radiation reflector. Mylar emergency blankets are great, but they are fragile. Upgrade to a heavy-duty reflective tarp. Use this to line the ceiling and walls of your Russian doll fort. But here is a Primal Methods pro tip. Do not let it touch the cold exterior wall of your house. Leave an air gap. That gap acts as extra insulation. You want the heat from your body or your heater to hit that shiny surface and bounce right back at you, turning your shelter into a thermos bottle. Third, you need thermal mass. This is the most overlooked item in winter survival. You likely have empty water jugs, cast iron pots, or even rocks in your garden. Clean them up. Bring them in. When your heater is running, place these items safely near the heat source. Let them soak up those BTUs. Water is miraculous. It holds 4 times more heat energy than stone or concrete per pound. A 5-gallon jug of hot water is battery that releases heat for hours after the fuel runs out. Hug it. Put it in your sleeping bag. Physics dictates that heat flows from hot to cold. Make sure it flows into you. Now, let's talk about the fuel for your body. Remember, I said your body is a furnace. It needs fuel to burn. In extreme cold, you don't just need food, you need fat. Digestion creates heat. This is called thermogenesis. But not all foods are equal. Proteins and fats burn hotter and longer than sugars. Before you go to sleep, eat a stick of butter, a spoonful of coconut oil, or some pemmican. It sounds gross to the modern palate, but biologically, it is like throwing a slow-burning oak log onto a dying fire. It keeps the furnace running through the night so you don't wake up shivering. Finally, we must address the most dangerous myth in the prepper community, the candle heater. You have seen the videos. Put a candle under a clay pot and magically heat your home. Let's apply physics. A candle produces about 250 BTUs. An average room needs thousands. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. The clay pot absorbs the heat and radiates it. Yes, but it does not multiply the energy. It creates a warm spot for your hands, but do not bet your life on it heating a room. It is a psychological comfort, not a thermodynamic solution. Trust the math, not the magic. Winter survival, a game of mahjons. It is about stopping the leaks. Every gap in your window is a leak. Every inch of your body touching the floor is a leak. Every breath you exhale is a loss of moisture and heat. Here is the bottom line. You can spend $10,000 on gear and still freeze if you don't respect the laws of nature. Or, you can spend $50 on foam, tape, and plastic sheeting, apply the principles we teach here at Primal Methods, and ride out the storm in comfort. The cold is relentless. It never sleeps. It never stops trying to steal your energy. But it is also predictable. It follows rules. If you master those rules, you master the cold. Look around your home right now. Do you see a shelter? Or do you see a sieve? Do you see comfort? Or do you see conduction, convection, and radiation waiting to strike? Change your perspective. Change your strategy. This is Primal Methods. We don't just survive, we solve the problem. If you want to master the physics of staying alive when the grid goes down, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments below, what is your thermal battery plan? Are you using water, stone, or something else? Let's discuss the science. Stay warm, stay smart.